Hey, this is GratuiTous. Welcome to Music Production Made Simple, the show that focuses on best practices about music production, which is based on FL Studio. If you're wanting to become the best producer you could be, subscribe and listen weekly. You can also check out my courses, which teach you the principles and basics of music production. They'll get you up and running quickly. In addition, I also have books on Amazon and tons of music on Spotify. Always feel free to hit me up at hi@itsgratuitous.com. So let's get into the episode. Alright, hey, what's up everybody? GratuiTous here, and welcome to episode number 8 in this podcast series of Music Production Made Simple. So this episode is about, do we need to know the piano as a beat maker to make beats, okay? It's a really interesting question. It's kind of like a yes and no kind of question. I'm going to get into it in a second. I first want to share some stuff before we get into the episode, okay? So the first thing I want to share with you is I released a free Serum bank. So if you guys use Serum, the actual bank is called ENDOW, ENDOW. It's totally free on YouTube. Again, I will leave all the links that I mentioned in this episode's page, resource links on my actual website. It's 25 free presets for you guys. It's called ENDOW, and it's a free Serum bank. In addition, I'm also going to be talking about my piano course, okay, in this episode. And if you guys want a coupon, just use the coupon ENDOW, ENDOW. This piano course it's been like my best-selling course over the years. I've had over 5,000 students enroll into it, and it's helped a lot of people. It's had amazing reviews and stuff like that. So again, this episode is all going to be about learning the piano and from a, kind of like from a beat maker's perspective. But if you want to take the course, again, just use the coupon ENDOW, ENDOW, and you'll save 40%, okay? Another thing I want to share is I also bought Massive X. That was recently released by Native Instruments, and I kind of got a little bit excited about it because I was like, oh, this is a new, a brand new VST. I was actually going to create some free presets for you guys and put them there on YouTube for you guys, just like I've done with Serum. That ENDOW bank I just mentioned, that's my 6th free Serum bank that's on YouTube for you guys. But again, I was going to do like the same thing with Massive X. And me personally, I was actually really unhappy with how Native Instruments released the product. Over the years, I've never really liked Native Instruments for myself for products. I've just never liked how their actual products like looked, how it kind of integrated with FL Studio, and I don't know, I've just never liked their approach to the music industry. The reason why I didn't like Massive X was there was no visualness to it, right? That's a big complaint you'll hear with a lot of people, especially when it comes to like the ADSR envelopes and stuff. It was a static, and it's like, this is a huge company, right? So like, they're releasing a VST that's like $200 in Canadian dollars. And I was just not happy with that, it just kind of showed that this was a rushed product. The next thing I didn't like was there's no user manual at the moment. So, again, I was wanting to learn to create, presets to put them into a bank and release for free for you guys. And there's no user manual. So I didn't know how to put them into like a custom folder. So I could just like give you guys a download link. At the moment, all I could figure out was it was just storing into like the user folder. I just didn't like it, okay? The next thing was there was a crazy amount of CPU usage. Like when I would open it up in FL Studio, like it would take a while to load. And then, for example, if I would compare that to Serum would open instantly. So it was just like, okay, this is not cool. This is a brand new product. You guys even took extra long. Like they were supposed to release it before, but they put it on hold because, I guess they figured, well, we want to make this perfect. And by no means is it perfect. And the last thing I want to say is, so I actually have two computers. So I have one, which I'm talking to you on right now. This is like my main music production computer. It's like the beast. I actually have a video. I created a video on YouTube showing how I purchased all the parts and I put it all together with you and I walk you through step by step. So if you guys want to check out that video, I'll leave the link in the resource section. But I couldn't even get Native Instruments. It's called Native Access. That's how you use their tools. You download their software and then you use that software to install tools like that you've purchased. I couldn't even get Native Access to work on this computer, which is a beast, right? Like this is an amazing computer I'm on right now. And it's just like, I can't even get it to work. So I actually had to install Massive X on my other computer, get it up and running. And, it was cool. Like I like the sounds and stuff, but in terms of being ready to be released to the public, I don't think it's ready. And I don't think that's fair to the users. So at the end of the day, I actually asked for a refund for Massive X, and they actually honored it, which was nice. I pretty much told them my points, and I'm pretty sure that they kind of realized, like, yeah, we rushed this.
So I got my money back. I no longer have Massive X. Just to give you guys a little update. The last thing I want to share before we get into this podcast is, again, you guys can always support this podcast for $5 a month. Just come to itsgratuitous.com/podcast. You guys will see a subscribe button there. You guys can support this podcast for $5 a month. Okay, so let's get into the podcast. So do you need to know piano as a beat maker to make beats? Okay, so obviously this is like a yes and no question. Many producers can make beats without knowing improvisation, but in the long term, I personally feel it's like a hindrance because, you're not learning like music theory, you're not understanding chords, you're not understanding how you can kind of integrate, the power of music, like you're always kind of guessing with these notes, like, especially for myself when I first started up, it was kind of I was always just kind of trying to find different notes that would work, but I never really knew the notes I was actually allowed to play. And at the end of the day, like the longer you put it off, like really like the more potential like you're missing. And especially if you start growing and you start working with other producers, like they might know the piano, they might know some music theory, some chords, some scales, all that stuff. And you might always kind of be, kind of blinded to this stuff. And, it might be a little bit embarrassing like the longer you go on. So it's really important so that you understand, how a piano works at like a basic level, so you can at least kind of have that conversation or, just talk that way, okay? So I want to talk about what's the goal of a producer playing a piano, because if we just quickly talk about a classical piano player to a beat maker, okay, trying to learn the piano, there's similarities as well as there's differences, okay? And the thing is, if you're trying to learn the piano as a classical piano player into your beats, this is going to be really, really hard because as a beat maker, so this is what I feel as a beat maker when it comes to learning the piano. So we as a beat maker, we're wanting to learn like catchy loops. We're wanting to learn improvisation, okay? Improvisation means being able to just play the piano and not know, where you're going, but you can make it still sound good, okay? Like you kind of know what notes you're allowed to play and you can improvise. You can just create a song right on the spot. That is being a beat maker, okay? You want to learn improvisation to create, catchy loops, catchy melodies, all that kind of stuff. The next thing you want to know as a beat maker is knowing what notes that you can play at what time and in what scales, okay? How to count beats is really, really important, as well as different variations of chords, which is called inversions. So every single chord has 3 chords, okay? So for example, you have like the root position, you have like the first inversion, the second inversion, then it goes back to the root position. This is a really cool technique to create that same chord sound, but it's just kind of like a little bit higher. And many times that's a really powerful trick for 1, just a different sound, or for 2, when it comes to mixing purposes, you can play that same chord but a little bit higher, which makes it maybe easier to mix, okay? Because if all the chords are kind of within the same notes, your music can start kind of sounding, maybe a little bit muddy, or, you get a lot of frequency masking. But if you start using things like inversions, you can kind of spread those chords out a little bit and you give your frequencies, kind of more space to play with, okay? It's kind of a cool little trick. Okay, so that's some of the kind of things when you're trying to learn the piano as a beat maker. Those are like the main elements that you want to learn, okay? Now, I just want to talk about my piano course just for a little bit, okay? Because in all honesty, like I'm saying, it's helped so many people, and I just want to talk about what I share and what I teach you in that course. Because, to learn the piano, it is like a visual thing. It's going to be hard to learn even over like this podcast episode, but I am going to talk about some things to get you going if you do just want to learn on your own. Okay, so first of all, the course is called Learn Piano for Beatmakers and Producers, okay? It's had over 5,000 students enroll, and it's been like my best-selling course. Again, you guys can use the coupon ENDOW, ENDOW. You guys will save 40% off the course on my own website. Again, that's for the single purchase. So on my website, you guys can purchase the membership. It's just $10 a month. You guys get access to all the course. There's no contract or anything, and you guys can cancel anytime. Or you guys can purchase the single course, and this is where you can use that coupon ENDOW, okay? So what this course teaches is what notes that you're allowed to play, okay? Because when we look at the piano, how it works is that you have to actually pick a scale, okay? And within that scale, you're only allowed a certain amount of notes to play. So inside an octave, there's 12 notes, okay? And it just repeats every single octave, whether you go up or down. So for example, if you're playing a C4 to a C5, the C5 is just higher, but it's just double the frequency, okay? So for example, A4 is an easy one to understand because A4 is 440 hertz. If you go to A5, now you're playing 880 hertz. So it just doubles in frequency. And that is why you can play them together and they sound like kind of like in unison. So that's a really hard thing for new producers, is knowing what notes that you're allowed to play, okay? So I'll quickly talk about the C major scale. So C major is the easiest one to understand. And that's because there's only white notes. But when I first got started playing piano, I didn't know how to add the black notes in. And the problem was I was playing in C major, which means that there's only white notes. So you can't play the black notes. And that's why it was always sounding bad. But in the course, I break down, how these scales work and how you can learn to play the piano so that you know what notes you're allowed to play, okay? I teach you improvisation with both the left and the right hand, which is huge. As a producer, you want to be able to know what notes you're allowed to play, how to actually improvise. And, for example, let's kind of get rid of the drum loops and stuff, for example. You want to be able to sit here on a piano and improvise, okay? You want to be able to play chords. You want to know what chords that you're allowed to play and just kind of flow, okay? And then, again, I show you how to play with the right hand as well as the left hand. I break down, major, minor scales, major and minor chords, again, revealing how you can actually use these from a beatmaker's perspective and get up and running, okay? Now I'm going to talk about, where should you start if you want to learn the piano, okay? Again, all of these points relate pretty much to this course as well, okay? So where should you start if you want to learn the piano? So first of all, you want to learn how scales work. So scales tell you what notes you're allowed to play, okay? So again, like I was saying, there's 12 notes per octave, okay? But a scale, you actually only have 7 notes that you're allowed to play. And depending what scale you choose, so first of all, you choose a key. So for example, let's say the key is C, and then let's say we have either go major or minor. In our case, let's say we go minor. All these scales, now you only have 7 notes that you're allowed to play. And these tell you the notes that you're allowed to play. It also tells you the type of chord. And in addition to the type of chord, what I mean is it will tell you that is that chord a major or a minor, okay? So again, it's a little bit confusing just listening. When you can actually visually see, it makes it more sense. But so the first place you want to start is to learn scales, okay? And know what notes that you're allowed to play and the chords that you're allowed to play. And the easiest one to start off with is C major because there's no black notes. And because there's no black notes, that means that there's only white notes. And that's telling you that when you play your chords, you have to make sure that your chords only have white notes. You can't add black notes with those chords, okay? Really, this is probably the most common problem with musicians. And this is where, for myself, like I was saying, when I first started up, I didn't know the different notes and stuff because, like I'm saying, when I was playing the piano, when I first got started, I was playing just the white notes and it was super easy. It was like, okay, I can always play these chords and it always sounds good, but I didn't know how to add the black notes in. It's really simple. It was just because I was in the scale of C major. So once you understand how scales work and what notes, you're allowed to play, it opens up a world of opportunity. You will now be able to actually improvise on a piano. It's such an amazing feeling, okay? And I'll pass on a really, really cool tip to you guys. So every single major scale actually has an opposite minor scale. And for example, like we said, C major has only white notes. Well, actually, A minor has only white notes. Okay, so it's kind of cool. So every single major scale has an opposite minor scale, which kind of makes it confusing because if you were to ask the question, it's like, well, are you actually playing in C major or are you actually playing in A minor? And a really awesome tool to visually be able to see what scales are available to you and what notes are within that scale is on pianoworld.com. So into Google, just type in Piano World Scale Helper. And this has been an amazing tool. This is actually the tool I use with you inside of the course, Learn Piano for Beatmakers and Producers, okay? And I walk through the Piano World Scale Helper and I show you that, what scales that are available and how to actually see the notes that you're allowed to play. And then in addition, to push it further, what chords that you're allowed to play within that scale, okay? Because again, there's a difference between a major and a minor chord, and sometimes a major chord is not in that scale. Again, a little bit confusing when you're just getting started up, but again, I break it all down for you in the course. So this is a cool little trick that I've discovered over the years is I actually recommend learning one scale and sticking to it. Because since we have our music programs, it's really easy to transpose like our notes. So for example, if we always play within one scale, if you want to change it to a different scale, it's really easy inside of music programs, okay? And the reason why I say that is because learning improvisation is all about muscle memory. So we want to constantly ingrain these notes into our mind, because as you're playing the piano, you want to know what notes that you're allowed to play, okay? And the thing is, as a beat maker, like there's not enough time to learn how to play the piano well and learn all the scales and make beats at the same time, okay? So why I tell you to learn one scale is because it builds that muscle memory, it allows you to practice, and you can achieve your goal of learning the piano. So I'll give you kind of a little insider's tip. So I actually like to play my music in the scale of C minor. I like the sound of C minor. I know the notes. I have some white notes. I have some black notes. And the reason why I like that is because as you are actually improvising on a piano, when you have white and black notes to play, you can actually feel on the piano where you are. But whereas when you are playing C major, again, only white notes, just think about it. Like, if you put your hands on the piano and look away, it's like you have no idea where your hands are on a piano. But as soon as you start adding some black notes in, you're instantly able to feel where you kind of are on the piano. Okay, so that's a cool little tip. Okay. Again, it's all about just kind of building that muscle memory, and when you practice, you'll eventually be able to start flowing. And when you first start learning, you want to learn a couple scales, to see how it all works, okay? So for example, like if this is all brand new information to you, I want you to actually learn different scales. Go to like G major, G minor, C major, C minor, D major, D minor. Like learn these different scales, learn, what's in them, learn how to play with them a little bit, okay? But at the end of the day, you'll eventually want to stick with just one because, again, as a beat maker, it's all about muscle memory. It's about improvisation. It's about knowing how to create catchy loops. And if you just stick with that one scale, it's really easy to convert to these different scales, okay? Really, if you really want to get intense, maybe you want to learn like one major scale and then one minor scale, and you want to be able to play those fluently. So those are just some tips that I have figured out along the years, and it's really helped me learn the piano faster. And again, since we have our music production programs, we're in total control of our MIDI notes, okay? So I want to give you guys just a little bit of a background to me when I started learning the piano, okay? So at a really young age, my mom put me in piano lessons, and I hated it. I didn't like it at all. But it did benefit me because I was able to learn like the notes on a piano and how a piano works. Again, like I'm saying, so you have 12 notes, and that's one octave. When you go up to like that same note, but just up higher, now you're up an octave, or you can go lower. And a piano just repeats over and over like that, okay? Some of the main reasons why I didn't like the piano lessons was I didn't like playing another person's music. Like, that's just boring to me. The next thing is I didn't like the repetitive practicing. You're always trying to learn in perfect timing. But again, at the end of the day, it did benefit me. I knew how to count like 1, 2, 3, 4, stay in time, especially if you're practicing with like a metronome, which is a really cool thing to do. It allows you to play your music in time. But at the end of the day, like I didn't like being forced into like, reading this music and sitting there and playing someone else's music. So when I first got into learning the piano, these piano lessons, I think I was probably like 5 years old, and I think I did it until maybe I was like 7 or 8. And then I told my mom, like, I want to quit. Like I hated it. Okay. And then music was not really a part of my life for many, many years. It was probably near like the end of high school. A friend introduced me to FL Studio, and, I started making beats. And then once, I got like a MIDI keyboard, I was able to kind of hit some notes and stuff like that. But, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't play the black notes. Like I was already saying, and the problem was I was playing in C major, right? So because in C major only has white notes, you can't play the black notes because you're in C major. So when you're actually making a beat, you have to make sure to pick a scale and key beforehand, and then you can start making your beat because now you know what notes that you're allowed to play, okay? So again, I started making beats, couldn't figure out, why I couldn't play the black notes. And it was kind of cool. There was a lady down my street, and at the time, I was talking to her about like the piano or whatever, and she gave me actually a few lessons, and she explained how chords and scales worked. Okay. So now I was I understood why I couldn't play certain notes within certain scales, the whole problem with C major being white notes only. And it was now up to me to practice improvisation, okay? So now I was able to understand the notes that I'm allowed to play. Now it's just a matter of learning, different rhythms, different melodies, and how to incorporate kind of like the left and right hand. Now, the right hand was a lot easier to understand for these different chords and different inversions. The problem was it was really hard to blend like the left hand into the equation of playing like with the right hand. And the reason for that, with the left hand, like I didn't know the different techniques I could play like for fullness, like with the left hand, or how to blend like the right and left hand together like smoothly. And just in general, it was hard to play like the left and right hand, at the same time. So this is why I'm trying to tell you that muscle memory is extremely important. And the cool thing with muscle memory is after a couple months of practice, like you will find like there's like that one day that will come where you feel like a huge improvement in your skills, okay? And it takes a lot of practice to actually feel this result, okay? So for myself, I usually practice the piano every day. I usually just sit down, and even if it's just like for 10 minutes, it's just a matter of just constantly keep moving your fingers on the keys and understanding and just keep practicing. And then eventually, like I'm saying, like that one day will kind of come where it's kind of like a milestone. You're all of a sudden just like, oh, like it's all kind of flowing a little bit. I'm starting to understand now. I'm not saying that you're becoming really good. I'm just saying that, for your own practice, all of a sudden, like you'll kind of start to feel like this improvement come upon your skills, right? And as you continue, it will keep growing and growing, and you'll get better and better and better. Okay, so again, that's why I say, you want to learn like one scale and practice it to build this muscle memory so that you can really push forward and really excel with the piano, okay? So where I am today now, even speaking to you right now, so now I can actually improvise on a piano very well. I can create melodies which are tailored to beat making. So I just want to share a quick demo reel I created just yesterday. For my premium Serum presets. I'm going to be selling it on ADSR Sounds and stuff like that. And in order to, sell these presets, typically you need to create some type of demo, to kind of present the presets and like show what they're capable of. And, I created this in about maybe an hour and a half. Okay. So here it is. Okay, so I hope this episode inspires you guys to learn the piano. Again, you guys can check out this episode's resource links to view the course, the Learn Piano for Beatmakers and Producers. Again, you guys can use the coupon ENDOW, ENDOW, to save 40% off of the single course purchase on my website. There's also the free Serum bank I shared with you is also called ENDOW. The reason why the coupon is the same is just to celebrate the release of the Serum bank. And again, you guys can save 40% off of the piano course. Again, I teach you all about how to improvise as a beat maker. I've had over 5,000 students enroll. I've had so many 5-star reviews to that course, and it's helped a lot of people, okay? You guys can always email me at hi@itsgratuitous.com if you guys have any questions with any of this stuff as well, okay? Also, I'm going to be leaving a link about, my custom music production computer, how I put it all together. And also, if you guys want to check out my premium Serum bank, it's called Premium Serum Presets Volume 1 by me, GratuiTous, okay? So I hope you guys like this episode about learning the piano. Again, it's hard to actually show you guys just by talking, but in general, that's the kind of stuff that you want to learn, okay? So you want to learn, how to create catchy loops, how to improvise. You want to know scales and the notes that are within that scale so that you guys can improvise. Then the actual notes that you're allowed to play within your beat. Again, a cool trick I've just discovered over the years is, especially being a beat maker, is just learning one scale, sticking to it, and really building that muscle memory, because it's really easy to transpose your MIDI notes to whatever you want once it's actually in your computer. It's just all about learning creating these melodies and creating catchy loops, right? Because then once it's in your computer, then it's up to you with what you want to do. You can change your sounds, you can change notes, you can change their lengths, et cetera, right? So again, hopefully you guys, get inspired by this. Hopefully it improves your piano skills. I'm GratuiTous. Thanks for checking out this episode, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
Thanks for checking out the episode. If you had any questions, visit itsgratuitous.com/podcast, select an episode, and submit your question at the bottom of the page to the contact form. If you'd like to take my FL Studio courses, see my current studio and podcasting gear, read my books, or are interested in lessons, visit the link itsgratuitous.com/learning. That page will redirect you to more info and resources. I hope the best with your productions. I'm GratuiTous, and I'll see you in the next episode.